I really want to empathize with the parents. If you think your child is really hungry and they only want the French fry from the particular place, and I have to say, our ski area had like the most amazing French fries, but I would travel for them. But do you go to the place and get the special French fries, or what would you do if you were in this predicament?
Yeah, early in treatment for sure. So we always start off by advising parents like, your child needs calories, like they need to eat in order to grow. So if they're only going to eat this one kind of French fry and you're able to make that trip to, the place where it's available, then like, please do that. Like, the first thing is like feed your child, kind of like, if you're deciding between breastfeeding and formula, like fed is best. So we work on volume first. But then once you establish a pattern of regular eating and the person can be eating, say, like French fries or pasta or what have you on a regular basis, then you could start working on variety, kind of like leveling up to the next level of the video game, then start to introduce kind of some newer foods, maybe not even at mealtime, but as like a special tasting session where they're going to learn about these new foods. And we also don't expect immediate incorporation of the new foods. Like we'll start out just tasting and learning about them, getting repeated exposure before then integrating them into the existing food repertoire.
Can we talk a little bit about exposures and rewards? I know that's a big part of the book that could be a whole talk in itself, but just to give
Yeah.
us a sense of it.
Yeah, so we pull a lot of concepts in our treatment from the anxiety disorders literature. So we know that basically when you are afraid of something, it's totally normal and natural that you are going to want to avoid that thing. That comes from evolution. If we hadn't have done that, we would be like gone as a species. And I think too with food, a lot of the foods that folks with ARFID tend to avoid are ones that might have been poisonous, like in our ancestral times, right? Like if, we didn't have some people skeptical about eating those berries or what have you, like we might have all died off. So totally normal to be anxious, but the way that we help people to overcome anxiety in any sort of anxiety disorder is helping them to face their fears and kind of test out whether their negative predictions are going to come true. So in the case of someone thinking that they'll vomit or choke, they actually have to try some of that food, maybe even a little bit in a controlled condition to see if that bad thing actually happens in order to change their mind predicting in the future. You can't just like talk somebody out of a scary belief usually. And then with someone who worries that foods will taste disgusting or that they're going to always feel overly full and in pain after they eat, they have to have the experience of eating some of those foods or maybe eating a larger amount of food and seeing that they can tolerate what that's like. So that's what we're looking at in this concept of exposure and doing it in like a supportive way where we're cheering people on and not saying, oh, you should have been eating this all along, but like, hey, given your biological predisposition, your past experience, that's awesome that you're willing to try this broccoli or that you're going to try this steak or, what have you.
Absolutely. And then what sort of rewards would you give and how powerful are they?
Yeah. So, I would say that the ideal scenario would be that the patient's coming in because they're excited about making changes to their diet and that having a wider variety of food or getting to a weight that is not underweight and growing, stuff that would all be its own reward. But at the same time, like all of us who work outside the home are getting paid for that. We like to be told that we're doing a good job when we're doing hard work. So I'm also think that, if a young person maybe is not motivated by some of those intrinsic rewards, it's totally appropriate for the parents to create some kind of a reward system. So in our treatment, rather than me setting the rewards, because I don't know what will be specific to a certain patient, usually I'll try to just be really respectful of the parents who know and love their child best about what they think would be rewarding. But just by way of example, different patients I've worked with sometimes have asked their parents to give them some amount of money for each taste that they do of a new food or for incorporating a new food. Sometimes they've wanted like clothes or screen time or like video game time, like those Roblox or Minecraft time or something. So it's pretty idiosyncratic, but the main point is that you want the child to know in advance what the reward will be. And you want the reward to be fairly immediate. So not saying, oh, eventually if you're successful in conquering ARFID, you will get this trip to Disney World. It needs to be something they get like right away for doing that really hard step of trying that one food right now.
And then I would imagine as you get the success snowball going, success begets success.
Absolutely. Oftentimes what, we have found patients to say after several sessions of trying new foods is that it's not so much just that they now have tried those foods, is that they've kind of opened the door to realizing that trying those foods is a possibility for them, and that it may be possible that they'll like some of the foods or that they won't hate all of them. And so what we actually think we're addressing in the treatment is kind of that level of food neophobia. And if we measure that, kind of that fear of the unknown, fear of trying new foods, when we measure that session by session, that actually tends to go down even before people are incorporating the new foods. And then, like you said, it'll kind of go on its own steam. Like I remember I had a patient who emailed me and said, "Oh, I'm at a barbecue and you'd be so proud of me because I'm trying this like buffalo burger." And I was like, "What? Like we never did that in the session, but he realized from having tried a bunch of other foods that he could manage trying a buffalo burger." So I was really proud of him.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And what are some tricks of the trade? You talk about fading in a food or taking a familiar food, doing something different with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that to start with, what we do is really just encourage people to try individual foods kind of by themselves. But then we're trying to move foods from just the tasting phase, like having little tastes of something, to full incorporation, like not just having a little bite of broccoli as a one-off, but having broccoli as part of your dinner. We will use different strategies, and kind of depending on the situation. So let's say if somebody's preferred food is mac and cheese, we might try to fade in a little bit of broccoli, always with the patient knowing. So I would say none of this is like a secret, sneaky thing, but we might suggest if the child's amenable that the parent could like maybe blend in some steamed broccoli with the sauce, or maybe they could add some very tiny bits of the florets to it, and then over time increase that amount. And again, with the child knowing and kind of being on board, because our philosophy is that in order to know that you like broccoli or to eventually order broccoli at a restaurant or cook it yourself, like you would have to know that you're okay with eating it, not that it's been secretly fed to you. Although again, I totally empathize with parents, that sometimes you just feel desperate to get your child to eating vegetables.
Yeah. Hide the kale and the brownies.
Right.